Welcome to World War II Online Tutorials, how to set up and operate a flak gun. In this particular video, we're going to be working on the smaller guns, and we'll have a separate video for the self-propelled. For the smaller flak guns, the Axis have a 20mm, the Allies is a 25mm, and both are being pushed by their crews. Also, both factions have a 40mm gun, again, pushed by their crew members. Also, the larger the vehicle, the heavier it is, the slower it moves. The Germans, or Axis players, also have an 88mm, and that one is usually used more for anti-tank weapons. However, it is an anti-aircraft gun, so can also be used for anti-air. As you watch these flak guns shoot at these aerial targets, make sure that you take note, particularly on this bofors, how much they lead the target. Depending on the angle that they're coming at and how fast they're moving, sometimes you have to lead more or you have to lead less. So pay real close attention to that. And a lesson to learn right here is that if you're flying or in the air and you have several flak guns on the ground, you don't fly directly over them and deposit your load where they can be shot and taken out before they even have a chance to get to the ground. So you have to play smart both on the ground and in the air. And as you can see, these paras had very little chance of success flying directly over or within a good range of the flak guns. The reason why I'm showing you the videos first of the flak guns shooting at the different targets is because the actual getting of the vehicle and setting it up is very rudimentary and very simple. But I want you to see and pay, like I said, pay real close attention to where, in particular, this person on the bofors, where they're aiming and how they aim, and how, as the target gets further away and at a slightly less angle, that he can bring his lead in much closer. And he can actually hit these vehicles, airplanes, whatever, at distances where they're actually just a gray halo. Particularly, watch this one right here. He's now judging the angle. He's getting his gun in the right spot. He's shooting. It's a gray halo, but these last few rounds that he fires is the crucial ones, and the guy is what you would think is out of range, but guess what? He's not. Also, there's some tactics on where you want to place your flak gun. Hiding in bushes, in between buildings, near the AB. You want to get something where you're protected, at least from one direction. And also, you can't always just stay there. So you're shooting away, and of course you shoot down a few enemy planes, as you can see here and there. But then you also have them coming after you. And if they know where you're at, and you've stayed in that spot too long, then you're going to have this happen to you here. Now this is difficult to defend against. Now the flak gun, the bofors, it's harder to push, to maneuver, so it's not going to be able to get away any place. However, the smaller flak gun, the 20mm or the 25mm, depending on which side you're on, it moves very rapidly, so you can fire, scoot, and then set up and fire again. So the first time you're going to test one of these out, best would be to go to Cornered Rat Software to practice offline. You can either go to the training server or you can go to practice offline. If you go to the training server, then you can play the game as if you're in the game, but you're not wasting equipment or anything like that. Plus you can practice having friends fly directly towards you, fly diagonal to you, whatever that may be. But if you go to the practice offline, you're going to be working within your own computer. So this you're going to be doing on your own. And you can go in, select the vehicle that you want, like the 20mm or the 25mm, depending which faction you're in, Axis or Allied. Select the tab for anti-aircraft, and when you go to that, you'll have a couple of choices. You'll have the 25mm if you're on the Allied side, and or the 40mm. So you're going to click on the one you want and pop it into the practice offline mode. And in addition to the 25, 20, and 40mm, there's also going to be the 88mm, which is the anti-aircraft gun that was converted or ended up being used as an anti-tank gun. But it can also be used for anti-air, since that's what it was designed for. Now this is an Allied Hotchkiss, which is a 25mm. It's relatively easy to maneuver around. It has a two-man crew. Your captain or commander for the vehicle is the guy standing in the back. Basically, he's position 1. You use him to maneuver the vehicle around or the gun around to wherever you want it to go. Then you're going to press Z, which is the default key for setting it up. He'll step back, the vehicle will sink down to the ground, and then position 2 will be the gunner. And then in position 2, you have period or delete key on your number pad. And you can use that period to zoom in. You can see here how maneuverable it is. So you can make some shots, shoot around, go ahead and go forward, go backwards, whatever you need to do. And you can set up either by using your mouse and then the W, S, A, and D keys, or you can use your joystick through the key mappers, whatever you want to feel comfortable with. This right here, I'm actually using my joystick for through my key mapper. I had mapped something else, and it just so happens that it hooked onto the Hotchkiss here. So I just went ahead and used that for this demonstration purposes. Anyway, so it's very maneuverable. Then it also sets up very rapidly compared to some of the other guns. And then again, going to position 2, which is your gunner, you get your period or delete key on your number pad. You can zoom in, and then you can start to fire either by depressing the number 1 key on your mouse or whatever you decide you want to set up with. And basically, this is just a 25 millimeter high explosive round. And it's very powerful. You can use it against infantry, you can use it against small vehicles, and of course, use it against aircraft. And the German or Axis light 20mm anti-aircraft gun also has some armor-piercing rounds, which are available for smaller, light armored vehicles. And again, you can see that the Hotchkiss is pretty quick compared to some other vehicles. And not as fast as an infantryman, but you can, if you survive that first onslaught of enemy air, you can always go and hide in trees, bushes. So you want to shoot and scoot. You want to make some shots, and then hopefully, if nobody's looking at you, you can hide in a different bush line in a different location so that they can't relocate you. If infantrymen have found you, immediately undeploy so that you can move, because if you run into them and touch them while they're standing next to you like they're getting ready to shoot, if you touch them, they die. So anytime an infantryman touches a moving vehicle, that's death to them, and it's about the best way you can defend yourself if they're up very close. At a distance, of course, you use your gun. Also, under the 20mm for the Axis, be aware that they have 2 smaller 20mm ones. One is a Model 30, the other one's a Model 38. The 38 is just an upgraded version with a like a protective shield on it. There, with a quick look at the German Axis 20mm, you can see it's pretty much the same, slightly different in size, slightly different layout. Essentially, the commander again moves the vehicle around. Then when you deploy it using the default key Z, you go to your gunner position number 2. The gunner position then operates the gun and, of course, fires. And once you've done shooting at it, whatever, then you can go back, have your commander reattach, and then move to another location and set up to fire again. So the bofors on both factions, whether it's Allied or Axis, it's going to be the same. It's a larger, heavier gun. It fires a larger round, which is a 40mm, pretty detrimental just about anything it hits. And but it's a much slower vehicle to push, so it's best to have a tow vehicle, which is going to be one of your heavy towers, like a half-track or Morris puller or something like that. And that way you can get it from one location to another, and then have the tow vehicle hide a distance away so as not to give the location of the flak gun away, and then be ready to come zooming in or swooping in to help move the vehicle. Also, takes a little longer to set up. If you notice here, once everything gets all set, it's got these arms to stabilize it. They get all set, then you can switch from your commander's position, which is again number 1. You can switch over to position 2, and the gunner takes over. And of course, you're going to be aiming through your iron sight. And with the iron sight, you have the rings, which are around it, and the little spokes, which those are going to help you to line up, to anticipate, and or use your deflection shooting. In other words, to lead your target. And again, if you go back and look at the section with CHIMM on the bofors, very good example of how to lead with your iron sight. Take note that the bofors in real life has several other crew members who are loaders for the vehicle, and so they're going to hold clips of 4 rounds each. They're going to each take turns dropping them into the top of the guides at the top of the gun, which is basically gravity fed. And as the rounds drop down into the gun, and each time it fires, the next round will drop down, and therefore the gun can continuously fire until it runs out. And so in order to simulate that, they just basically make 4-round clips, and you get so many clips, and then when you run out of clips, you either stop firing an RTB or have somebody come and resupply you with more ammo. So one more word on towing. You want to make sure you use the appropriate vehicle for which you want to tow. You can't use a Betty, a Bedford, or the Opal for towing bofors that are too heavy. So you have to use a half track or a Morris puller, or the French version, the Laffy, that's a heavy puller. For the other flat guns and ATGs, you can use your Opal and Bedfords for the smaller ones, not the big ones, but the smaller ones. But those you have to tow from the back end, so you have to turn around and connect through from the back end. Whereas on the bofors here, it's actually a front end tower. The idea here is to get your bofors, get it moved out away from the spawn, get it into a place of concealment if you can, a hedgerow, next to some buildings, whatever it is that you want to do, and then that way, because it takes so long to push the bofors individually, it's best to get a tow, and then you can get there in a hurry and get set up. Also, make sure that your tow vehicle, once you've got your placement where let's say this hedgerow here, for example, once he gets deployed, then the vehicle needs to move off a little ways up the hedgerow, or over in those trees someplace, so that that if he gets spotted, that an enemy plane isn't going to come along and just strafe down that bush line and take out the bofors, and vice versa. Also, with the tow vehicle not too far away, you can actually, or when you're being towed, you can be rearmed or resupplied with ammunition from that tow vehicle. So that's another thing to keep in mind as well. Also, when you're connected to a vehicle, you cannot deploy, so you have to toggle your T character on your keyboard to unhitch, so that you can then use your Z key to deploy your weapon, and then again vice versa. From the commander's position number 1, he would hit the Z key and then go back to hitting the T to hitch onto the vehicle that's being towed. And then of course position number 2 is your gunner. The one thing you also have to be careful of too is that if the commander is killed, you cannot unhitch, therefore your gun is dead because you can't use it. And the same thing, if you're deployed and the commander gets killed, you can still use the gun if the gunner's still alive, but you cannot then reconnect. And that's basically it for operating flat guns and towing them and that sort of thing. And thank you for watching this video for tutorial on how to set up and use the flat gun, and have some fun out there.